My goal today is to help you understand sections 8.1 through 8.3 for your quiz on Monday. There will be a large section of vocab words. So let's see if we remember what some of these vocab words are. The first one, a blank is an entire group of people or objects. What is it? A population. All right, let's look at the next one. Raise your hand if you know this. A blank is a part of a population. Nehemiah? A sample. Very good. Now, there's two different kinds of samples that we talked about. The first one says, and blank sample is representative of a population. Brody? Unbiased. Okay, so an unbiased sample, that's good. If it has two things, at the end of that one it says it must be blank and blank. What is that, class?
Large and random.
Large and random. All right, you don't want to just go out and get a very tiny little sample. You've got to get a large sample so that it's representative of the whole population. What's the other kind? A blank sample. Biased sample. That's the one that's no good. You don't want a biased sample because it's not representative of a population because one or more parts are... Does anyone remember that?
Small.
No, not small. Favored. They are favored. All right, then we talked about data sets. What is the average of a data set called?
Mean.
The mean. Raise your hand if you know the next one. The blank is the middle number of a data set. William? Median. The next one, the blank is the difference between the highest and lowest numbers in a data set. Harmony? The range. And the final part, we talked about box and whisker plots. We know that a box and whisker plot is blank when one whisker appears way blank than the other. Janet, what do you think? Skewed. And how can we tell if it's skewed? One whisker is what? It's longer than the other one. All right, so those are the vocab words that you're going to want to know for your quiz and your test coming up on Wednesday and Monday of next week. Okay, number one, determine if the sample is biased or unbiased. Which one is good, biased or unbiased?
Unbiased.
Unbiased, okay, so we want it to be unbiased. Let's see if it is or not. You want to estimate the number of students in a high school who ride a bus to school. You ask 50 students during their outdoor school activity. So outdoors, after school, 7th through 12th grade all gets together and they have a big activity. You sample 50 of those people. What do you think? Is that biased or unbiased?
Unbiased.
It is unbiased. How can you tell that that is an unbiased sample? It's large, I asked 50, and it's random. It was at the outdoor activity where all of the grades were represented. So that is an unbiased sample. Let's look at another example. Number two, you want to estimate the number of people in Jacksonville who enjoy shopping at the St. John's Town Center. You surveyed 20 people in Miami. What do you think, biased or unbiased? Why is that biased? It favors the people who live in Miami. Is the St. John's Town Center in Miami?
No.
So do you think those people have probably even been to our St. John's Town Center?
No.
Probably not, okay? So they probably really don't care. They don't know if they enjoy shopping there or not. So that would not be a very good sample. Let's look at the next one. Determine whether the conclusions are valid or not valid. In order to be valid, it's got to be truthful, okay? You want to determine the number of students in your school who have been to see a movie at an Epic Theater. You survey 40 students at random. 35 have been to an Epic Theater and 5 have not. You conclude that 15% of the students in your school have not seen a movie at Epic. I want everyone to underline what it is that we are figuring out. Here, we are looking for the students who have not seen a movie at Epic. Okay, so underline that. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm identifying. Is that valid or not? How many students did we see up there have not seen a movie at Epic? 5. Underline that. 5 have not. Okay, so part over whole, 5 out of how many?
40.
Out of 40, because they asked 40 students at random. I want you to turn that into a percentage. What is 5/40ths as a percentage? What is it?
80%.
No? What's 5 divided by 40? Okay, 0.125, which is what as a percentage? 12.5%. Now, let's go back to what it's asking us. It says you conclude that 15% of the students in your school have not seen a movie there. Is this valid or not valid? It's not valid because it should have said 12.5%. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, I want you guys to go ahead and do number 4 on your own. This says you want to determine how many people like pizza in the lunchroom. You survey 75 people at random coming out of chapel. 60 of them say that they do like it, and 15 say that they do not like it. You conclude that 80% of the people you asked do like pizza in the lunchroom. So what are we looking for? The people who do like it or don't like it? Do. So underline that. Do like the pizza. How many people up there? Because listen, there's a lot of numbers. There's a 75, a 60, a 15, and an 80%. You're trying to figure out which one of these numbers you're going to be using. What am I looking for?
60. The people that do like it.
The people who do like it. So underline this. 60 of them say that they do like it. So I'm going to be using that 60 to help me. 60 out of how many people were asked?
75.
60 out of 75. What percentage is that?
8.8.
80, okay, so that is 80%. Is that what it says in my original problem? You can see right there, 80%. So is this valid or not valid?
Valid.
This is a valid conclusion. Next one, which sample is better for making an estimate? You want to estimate the number of families in your town with 1 or more children. So there's 2 samples. A random sample of 10 families that live near your home, or B, a random sample of 10 families living in your town. If I am looking for up here the number of families in your town with 1 or more children, which one of those samples do you think would be better? B. Alexis, why?
Because not every near your home.
Very good. This is favoring only the people who live near your home. If you think about certain neighborhoods, maybe they have a pool or a playground. People who have a bunch of kids would probably want to live there in that section, whereas other people might not. So you want to take a random sample, which means you want to ask 10 families living in your town, not only the people who live right there near your home. So B is the correct answer. Number 6, tell whether the ratios form a proportion using cross products. You and 4 friends want to know how many students in your school prefer country music. There are 900 students in your school. Each person in the group randomly surveys 30 students. The table shows the results. So we are focusing on people who like what kind of music? Country. So I want you to go ahead and draw a cloud or a circle around that to know we are only focusing on that. We don't need to worry about the rest of that chart for right now. So there is a certain formula that I have taught you. Favorable over total equals N over the population. So we're going to be using that to help us. All right, the first person we're going to focus on is you, all right? So we're going to do favorable over total. How many people did you see did like country music? 10 out of the total amount that you asked. How many did you ask? 30. Equals N over the population. How many total students were there in the school? 900. All right, so let's see if we can find the missing link from a 30 to a 900. How do I get from a 30 to a 900?
You divide.
We're going to multiply by what number? 30, because 30 times 30 equals 900. If I multiply the bottom by 30, I need to multiply the top by 30. Guys, what's 10 times 30? 300, okay? So we can see right here that that number is going to be 300, and I'm going to go ahead and put that over here in my box because you have estimated about 300 people like country music out of your school. Let's go on to friend A. What can we learn about friend A? How many people did A find like country music? 2 out of how many? 2 out of 30 equals N over the population. Do we already know the missing link?
Yes.
What is it?
30.
Times 30 on top and bottom, and what do we get? 60. Okay, so we're going to take that information and go ahead and put it over here in your box. Who would like to do B for me? All right, Taylor, go ahead.
So, B, and then, so 8 of the people in the Friend B survey like the country, and then so you divide by 30.
Good job. 8 over 30 equals?
And over 100.
Very good.
Which is 30.
Okay.
Multiply 8 times 30, which is 240.
240 is correct. And then go ahead and put that over here for friend B. What do you notice about friend B and friend C? Yes, very good. Friend B found out 8 people like country. Friend C found out 8 people like country. So do you think I need to do all that work all over again? No, we know the same answer is 240. So now we just need to do friend D. Who would like to do friend D? All right, Janet, go ahead. 15 over 30. Very good. Excellent. And what is 15 times 30? 450 is correct. And then let's go ahead and put that up here in our box. So now, what do I need to do to my estimates? Put them in order from least to greatest. Just go ahead and do that directly underneath your box there on your notes. What's the smallest one, Madison? 60. Sierra, what's the next one?
240.
Good job. Haley, the next one? You write 240 again. Harmony? And Charbel, the last one?
300.
What's the highest one?
Oh, wait. Highest one's 450.
450. All right, so now what problem A has said, use the sample to make an estimate for the mean number of students in your school that prefer country music. How do I find the mean? You're going to add them up. So let's add up 60 plus 240 plus 240 plus 300 plus 450. What do you get when you add all those together? All right, is that my answer? No. Listen, your average should always come in between the smallest number and the greatest number. So how do I figure out what the average is? Divide by 5 because there were 5 numbers in our data set. So guys, what is the average? 258 what? The mean number of students. So the correct answer is 258 students. So they're guessing or estimating about 258 students liked country music. All right, let's see what you come up with. Use each sample to describe the variation of the estimates. So the first thing we want to find is the center. What's another name for the center? The median or the middle. Guys, what's the middle number in that data set? 240. Okay, so you're just going to go ahead and write that in. 240 what? Students is correct. Next up, the variation. Another word for variation is the range. How do I find the range?
You subtract the biggest number from the smallest number.
Good job. What is my biggest number in my data set? 450. I subtract the smallest number, which was? And what's my answer? 390 what? Students. Remember, when you come to these ones, I always want you guys to put units attached to them. All right, and that is how you find the center and the variation when using the mean. Next up, we've got a modeling real life. An administrator randomly asks 48 middle school students if they're in favor of the new dress code. 12 of them say they are. There are 900 middle school students at the school. Estimate the number of students in the school who are in favor of the new dress code. So when we're doing this, favorable over total equals n over the population. Alexis, what should I do? Excellent, okay, because 12 were in favor over the 48 that the principal asked, or the administrator asked, over, n is always what we're looking for, and what's the population? 900. All right, so when you get to something like this, you can definitely do cross products where you're figuring it out like this, but most of the time it's easier if you can do mental math. So I want you guys to see if there is a missing link that can help us so we don't have to do cross products. Remember, whenever trying to find a missing link, I'm trying to get from 12 over to n, so I have to figure out how to get from 48 over to 900. What do I have to do to get from 48 to 900? Multiply by what number? Don't round. You've got to give me whatever number is there. Remember, you can do this by finding out how many times 48 goes into 900. 18.75. And it is okay if it's not a whole number, as long as you multiply the top by exactly what that is. Now, once again, if you're like, I don't know how to figure out the missing link, it is okay if you do cross products. So, guys, what is 12 times 18.75? 225, and let's attach some units. 225 what? Students. Okay, because you're trying to estimate the number of students who are in favor of the new dress code. You want to know the mean or the average number of hours that students in the band practice each week. 5 students were asked at each school, and 4 schools are represented. So we've got to find the mean. How do I find the mean of just this school A? Add them up, and then divide by 5. Let me have Javaria go ahead and add those up and let us know what you get. All right, very good. She got 55. Now, is that my mean? No, I have to divide by what? Okay, how come by 5? There were 5 numbers in our data set. So, Javaria, what's 55 divided by 5? Okay, very good, 11. So we're going to go ahead and put that down here. That's the mean of sample A. Who'd like to do sample B for me? All right, Sierra, go ahead. When you add up all of sample B, what number do you get? Very good, 50. And I want the mean, so I'm going to divide it by 5. And what is my mean? 10. Very good job. Madison, go ahead and do C. All right, very good. 45. And what am I going to divide that by? How many numbers are in your data set? Divided by 5. What's your answer? 9 is correct. All right, next up, let me have Nikki. Go ahead and give me the average of D. All right, very good. She got 55, and what do I do with that 55? And what do you get? Very good. Now, I am asking you for the mean number of hours, which means I want one total mean. How do I get one total mean if I have all of those means? I'm going to go ahead and add those together and get my mean for that. So we're doing 11 plus 10 plus 9 plus 11 and dividing it by 4 because there were 4 numbers here in that data set. When I add those together, what do I get? When I add them, what's my big number? 41 divided by 4. 10.25 what? Look, it says we want to know the number of hours. So it is 10.25 hours. Okay, and that is how you find the mean for a data set. Next up, we've got some questions about a double box and whisker plot. I want you and your partner to go ahead and do 9 through 12 together, and we'll talk about this here in just a minute. All right, what are the measures of center? What does a measure of center mean? The middle. Okay, what's the middle for sample A? A 7, very good. What's the middle for sample B? 8 is correct. Okay, so all you're doing is you're looking for the center point in your box. Let's talk about the next one, measures of variation. That's another word for the range. And remember, we're taking the upper quartile and subtracting the lower quartile. Easier way to remember that is the biggest number on the box and subtract the smallest number on the box. So we're going to take 9 minus 5, and what's the answer?
4.
Very good. And next up, data set B. How do I find that?
11
which is 4. Very good job. So our measures of variation are 4 for both of them. Okay, so now I've got a couple last questions about these box and whisker plots. Which data set is most likely to have a value of 10 in it? Look right here. You want to see which one it will land in the box. What was it? Data B. Next, which one is most likely to contain a value that differs from the center by 3? B. Why B? If I differ by 3, what would it land on? It lands on an 11, and it's still in the box. Notice if this one landed 3 above, it was not in the box. If it went below, this was not in the box either. And this one was also not in the box. So the only one it could be was data B, because this number is still landed in the box. Okay? Please use these notes to help you study for your quiz on Monday.